Hello students, today we are going to continue with the same chapter that we began in our last class, that is the fourth chapter of your supplementary reader in the Kingdom of Fools. So I hope you all remember what we read in the last class. What is the story about? The story is about the state where the foolish people lived, and this story is a folk tale that brings to light the dangers that are posed by foolish people, and it also emphasizes the view that foolish people can be very difficult to manage, and they can be dealt only with wisdom, that is by the wise people and calm people. In this story, we had read that there was a kingdom of fools where both the king and his ministers were idiots, and in an attempt to be different from others, what they did, they foolishly took the decision of changing the night with day and day with night, and hence the people in this kingdom would do all their work like tilling the fields or running the business at night, and would sleep when the sun rose up. So it was a very foolish thing. So, and very strange also. And the king also proclaimed that those who disobeyed would be given death punishment. Then, so everyone followed this foolish practice out of fear. Then one day, a guru and his disciple visited this kingdom and was surprised to find the whole kingdom asleep during the day. And when night came, people began their routine activities. And the two men had become very hungry by this time. And so they searched for the grocery shop so that they could buy some grocery and prepare their food. And it was very surprising for them to see that everything had the same cost, that is a single dudu. And initially they were both happy as they could buy all that they wanted for a very nominal amount. Then, however, a guru, being a wise man, that is an intelligent man, decided to leave the place and told his disciple that the behavior of fools cannot be predicted, and it was not safe to stay there for long. But the disciple decided to stay back, and the guru alone left the city, as the disciple was very greedy and he was getting a very cheap food over here, so he wanted to remain in this kingdom, and so his guru left him and he went back to his place. Then one day an incident occurred. A thief broke into a rich merchant's house by making a hole in the wall, and however, when he was leaving after the loot, the wall of the old house fell on his head and killed him instantly. Then the thief's brother, he complained to the king that the merchant was to be blamed for this death and should hence be punished. The foolish king assured him of justice and summoned the merchant whose wall had fallen and killed the thief. And then the king told the merchant that he would be punished for having murdered the man who burgled his house. So it is very strange and very foolish thing, a very humorous thing. So the merchant was a wise man and escaped punishment by telling the king that the wall had been built in his father's time, and so the bricklayer who built such a weak wall was responsible for the thief's death and should get the punishment. Then the bricklayer very wisely evaded or escaped the punishment and put the blame on the dancing girl, and he claimed that he got distracted by her jingling anklets when she went up and down the street on the day the wall was built by him. And the dancing girl in her turn shifted the blame to the goldsmith, and he said that she had to walk up and down the street many times just because of the goldsmith who delayed her order. And the goldsmith then defended himself by pleading that he could not complete the dancing girl's order in time just because he had to first finish a rich merchant's order, and this rich merchant was the father of the same person on whom the blame was put earlier. So the rich merchant was summoned again, and he pleaded his innocence on the ground that the jewelry had been ordered by his father. But the foolish king told the merchant that he had inherited his father's sins in the same way as he had got his wealth. Therefore, he must be executed for killing the burglar. So now let's see further what happens in the story, whether the merchant was hanged or not. So now we are going to begin with the third paragraph of page number 23. So in this now it is written, and he ordered a new stake to be made ready for the execution. As the servants sharpened the stake and got it ready for the final impaling of the criminal, it occurred to the minister that the rich merchant was somehow too thin to be properly executed on the stake, and he appealed to the king's common sense. The king too worried about it. So now first let's see to the meaning of all the hard words in this paragraph. The word stake means a post with a sharp pointed end which is used to pierce through something. And execution is an official killing of someone. Impaling is to push a sharp pointed post through something. So in these lines it is said that when this new weapon was getting ready, the minister felt that the merchant was very thin and he could not be executed in this way. He told this to the king, and the king got worried just because he had already given the orders, and if the merchant is not punished, he is not hanged, then the king's wisdom would be at stake now. So now let's see what he decides then. Further it is said, "What shall we do?" he said, when suddenly it struck him that all they needed to do was to find a man fat enough to fit the stake. Just because he had already given the punishment, he had already declared the merchant to be punished. So if merchant is not able to be hanged as he is too thin, then they should find a man fat enough to fit that stake. So this was the idea. The king got this idea that they should catch hold of the man who was fat enough or who was suitable enough to be executed with the stake, who fitted in that stake, and the merchant would not be put to death because he was too thin to be executed with a stake. And they thought of punishing some other person instead of the merchant, one who was fat enough to be executed or to fit the stake. Then further, the servants were immediately sent all over the town looking for a man who would fit the stake. And his eyes fell on the disciple who had fattened himself for months on bananas and rice and wheat and ghee. So what happened? Now it is again very humorous. Now what happened? Finally the king sent his servants around the kingdom to look for a man who was fat enough to be executed with this stake, who fitted the stake. And finally they found the guru's disciple, the disciple who refused to go with his guru just because of the greed. So as this disciple had got very fat, had become very fat because of overeating, so the people of the king or the ministers of the king found this man to be suitable to be hanged or to be killed by the stake. Then further it is said, "What have I done wrong? I am innocent. I am a sannyasi," he cried. That may be true, but it's the royal decree. Decree is the order that we should find a man fat enough to fit the stake, they said, and carried him to the place of execution. So now what happened? It is a very funny thing that the disciple, he pleaded, he said that he was a sannyasi and he had not done any crime. He is not a criminal and he was innocent. Then why were they taking him? The king's servants said that he was innocent, but they were ordered to catch hold of a fat man who could be executed with a stake, and he was fit for it, and that is why they were taking him along. Then further, the next line says, he remember. Now the disciple, he remembered his Guru's words. He remembered his Guru's words. This is a city of fools. You don't know what will they do next. So now the disciple remembered the words of his Guru. He remembered his Guru. Guruji, who was a wise man, had told him that it was a city of fools and they could harm him. Now they were taking him along to execute. So now let's see further what happens, whether he would be executed or not. So next line says, while he was waiting for death, he prayed to his Guru in his heart, asking him to hear his cry wherever he was. The Guru saw everything in a vision. He had magic powers. He could see far and he could see the future as he could see the present and the past. So now in these lines, the qualities of a Guru has been highlighted. So what is said, the helpless disciple, when he was to be executed at that time, he prayed to his Guru and asked him to come to his rescue. He prayed to his Guru in his heart. In his heart, he just called his Guru to save him. The Guru could visualize the disciple's message due to his magical power. And he could see everything. He could see the future, the present and the past. So he could see everything in the vision he had. As the disciple just called for his Guru, Guru heard everything. And now let's see whether he arrives or not. The next line says, he arrived at once. And who had got himself into such a scrape through love of food? Now what is scrape? Scrape is a difficult situation that one has got into. So now what is said, the Guru arrived there to save his disciple, and the disciple was trapped in a difficult and serious situation. What serious situation? You all know very well that he was now to be executed in place of the merchant just because he was fat and the steak was not suitable for the merchant, as merchant was very thin. So they were about to execute him although he had not done anything wrong. So Guru came to rescue him from this situation. Then further it says, as soon as he arrived, he scolded the disciple and told him something in whisper. So now what happened, because the Guru is a wise man, so he had made a plan how to save his disciple. So as the Guru met his disciple, he scolded him because he did not obey him and stayed back, and he whispered something in his ears. Then further it is said, then put me to the stake first. Then he went to the king and addressed him, O wisest of the kings, who is greater, the Guru or the disciple? Of course the Guru, no doubt about it. Why do you ask? Then put me to the stake first. Put my disciple to death after me. So now this is what the Guru did. As he was a wise man, so he thought of a very clever plan. What he did, the Guru, he tried to trap the king in his words. He asked him who was greater between a Guru and his disciple. And the king replied that of course the Guru was greater. So the Guru said that for this reason the king must execute him before executing his disciple. Next, when the disciple heard this, he understood and began to clamor. Clamor means to insist on something. Me first, you brought me here first. Put me to death first, not him. So now, when disciple heard his Guru's word, he started shouting that he wanted to die first. So this was actually the plan of the Guru. So now they were trying to trap the king in his words only. Next line says, the Guru and the disciple now got into a fight about who should go first. The king was puzzled. Puzzled means confused by this behavior. He asked the Guru, why do you want to die? We chose him because we needed a fat man for the stake. So when the Guru and disciple, they started arguing that who would die first, the king got confused. And he asked the Guru that why did he want to die? when the order for execution was given to the disciple and not the guru. They had caught the disciple because he was fat, and they wanted a fat man who could be executed with the stake. The next line says, "You shouldn't ask me such questions. Put me to death first," replied the Guru. So the Guru refused to reply. He said that he wanted to die before his disciple died. Then again, next line says, "Why? There is some mystery here. As a wise man, you must make me understand." So now the king felt that there was some mystery behind it. Why the Guru wanted to be executed first? The Guru wanted to die before his disciple, and was so eager to die. So there must be some reason behind it. So this was a thought that came to the king's mind, the foolish king, as he was very foolish. Then further it is said, "Will you promise to put me to death if I tell you?" asked the Guru. The Guru asked the king to promise him that he could execute him first if he told him the secret about why he wanted to be executed first. Then further, next line says, the king gave him his solemn words. The Guru took him aside out of the servant's earshot and whispered to him, "Do you know why we want to die right now, the two of us? We've been all over the world, but we've never found a city like this or a king like you. That stake is the stake of the God of justice, and it's new. It has never had a criminal on it." So now the Guru was very smart. What he said? He just asked the king to promise him that if after hearing the truth or after hearing the secret, he would execute him first. And the king promised that he would do so. Then the Guru took the king aside and slowly told him that they had roamed around the world but had not seen a city and a king like him. And he added that the stake which they would use to kill the disciple was the stake of justice, as it was new and it had not killed any criminal. So now let's read further what happens. Whoever dies on it first will be reborn as the king of this country. So this was a very clever idea. So what he said? The Guru said that one who would die first on the stake would be reborn as the king of the kingdom. That means when that person would take rebirth, he would become the king of the kingdom. And by telling all this, he is trying to trap the king. Nothing else he was doing. He is very smart. He is very clever, and he is taking advantage of the foolish people in that kingdom. Then further it is said, and whoever goes next will be the future minister of this country. We are sick of our ascetic life. Ascetic life is the life of a sannyasi, or a strict life, or the life of a disciple. Further he says, it would be nice to enjoy ourselves as king and minister for a while. Now keep your word, my lord, and put us to death. Me first, remember. So now what happened? The one who would die next would be reborn as the minister of the kingdom. So this was said by the Guru. And Guru added that he was tired of the life of a sannyasi, as it was a very strict life and they have to follow the strict discipline. So he and his disciple wanted to live the life of a king and a minister. So he says that the king should execute him first so that he is reborn as a king, and after him his disciple be executed so that he is reborn as a minister. Let's read further. Next line says, the king was now thrown into deep thought. He didn't want to lose the kingdom to someone else in the next round of life. He needed time, so he ordered the execution postponed to the next day and talked in secret with his ministers. So the word in these lines, postpone, means to put off something for a later time. So in these lines it is said that after listening to the Guru, the king was in deep thought, and he did not want that in the next life his kingdom be snatched away from him. So he discussed this matter with his ministers. Then further, It's not right for us to give over the kingdom to others in the next life. Let's go on the stake ourselves and we'll be reborn as king and minister again. Holy men do not tell lies, he said, and the minister agreed. So now the plan of the Guru was successful. So we'll see the king then discuss the matter, what he said to his ministers, that he did not want it that in the next life his kingdom be taken away by someone else. And he added that the person was a holy man who said this, and according to him, holy men did not speak lies. So he says that they should die first so that they are reborn as king and minister of the kingdom. Next line says, so he told the executioners, we'll send the criminals tonight. When the first man comes to you, put him to death first. Then do the same to the second man. Those are my orders. Don't make any mistake. So what happened now? The king told his executioners, the people who execute the criminals or kill the criminals, that he would send the criminals at night to him to be executed. And firstly, they should execute the person who came first and then execute the second person. And they should be careful and not make any mistake. So these were the orders given by the king to the executioner. Then what happened? That night the king and his ministers went secretly to the prison, released the Guru and the disciple, disguised themselves. Disguise means to change the appearance. Disguised themselves as the two, and as arranged beforehand with loyal servants, were taken to the stake and promptly executed. So what happened now? At night, what happened? The king and his ministers went to the prison where the Guru and his disciple were kept, and they wore the clothes of the Guru and his disciples so that they resembled them. And as it was told to the servants, they came and took them along and put them into the stake for execution. In this way, with his intelligence, the Guru was able to execute his foolish king and the foolish ministers. Then further, what happens? When the bodies were taken down to be thrown to crows and vultures, the people panicked. Panic means became frightened. So now what happened? When the dead bodies of then king and his ministers were taken away to be thrown, to be eaten by the vultures and eagles and crows, the people, they became frightened. They trembled to see the dead bodies of their king and his minister. Then further, they saw before them the dead bodies of the king and the minister, and the city was in confusion. So now everyone was trembling because of fear, because the dead bodies were not of the Guru and his disciple. Instead, they were the bodies of the king and his minister. Then further, all night they mourned and discussed the future of the kingdom. Some people suddenly thought of the Guru and the disciple and caught up with them as they were preparing to leave town unnoticed. So what happened now? Everyone in the kingdom, all the people in the kingdom, now they were thinking, or they were mourning over the death of their king and his minister, and they were worried about the future of the kingdom, that who would rule it. So in the morning, some people thought of the Guru and his disciple and felt that they should go to them. As the Guru and his disciple were planning to leave the kingdom secretly, the people stopped them. And further, let's see what happens. We people need a king and a minister, said someone. Others agreed. They begged the Guru and the disciple to be their king and their minister. So what happened now? The disciple, he agreed quickly, but it took some time to make the Guru agree upon this. Then further it is said, they finally agreed to rule the kingdom and the foolish king and the silly minister, on the condition that they could change all and old laws. From then on, night would again be night and day would again be day, and they could get nothing for a dudu. It became like any other place. So now these were the various changes that were brought in by the Guru after he was made the king and disciple became the minister. So what happened now? The Guru agreed to be the king of the kingdom, but on the condition that from then everyone would work in the day and sleep at night. And also the cost of things would vary and not be one dudu for everything as was the system earlier. So he decided to change the system that was started by the previous king, and he said that it would be like any other place where everything had different rates. Finally, the Guru converted the kingdom of fools into a normal kingdom. Now, students, after hearing to the explanation or after hearing the story, now tell me what is the message that you get from the story. So, message is that the story is actually a folk tale and gives two messages. And what are those two messages? The first message is that one should stay away from foolish people, else one is bound to suffer. And the second message is that in order to tackle foolish people, one should use wisdom and not logic. The Guru does not argue or reason the innocence of his disciple. Rather, he flatters the king and manages to convince him that the new stake was lucky. And he not only saves the life of his disciple but also rids the kingdom of the foolish king and his silly minister. And in addition, he became the next king and his disciple became the next minister. So this was the story, or this is the main message, two messages that we get from this story. So I hope now you all have understood the story and you will be answering the questions which are given at the back of the or at the end of the chapter. Thank you and goodbye now.